Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of Monday, December 28th. Why do I keep saying the day?
I don't know, because you like it.
I do. I love it. Mondays. I'm like an opposite Garfield.
You're deeply rag. I don't know how to say it backwards.
Pretty good on the fly. I like it. I'm Ryan Miller, actually, and he is... I can't say normal backwards. I'm not that good. Oh, wait. Iedo.
There we go.
Went with the short one, yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Although I don't know if you're an Odie, honestly.
I'm odorous.
He's not an Odie. It's Matt Amber.
I am the Steve Trevor of this show.
You're make-believe in a way. By the way, before we get too deep into it, before I forget even, now that you've brought him up, good call. I think you called his disappearance, or his reappearance, exactly, like attached it to a wish and everything. I'll have to go back and listen to the show. I won't.
It's the only thing that made sense at the time that they brought him back. Like, there was no way he wasn't going to be, he had to be a wish of some type. And sure enough.
Because on Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week and we talk about it, and we invite you to do the same to buy the podcast at bookclubformovies.com.
We are professionals. We know what show we do.
Or Facebook and Twitter. This week we are doing Wonder Woman 1984, and as is with all such things, there's a synopsis.
Oh, sure. Here's one. Wonder Woman 1984 coming at you at 2 hours and 31 minutes. Written by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and Dave Callahan. We're going to come back to that. Directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal, Lily Aspel, Robin Wright, and Connie Nelson. Here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Wonder Woman 1984. After the loss of her one true love in World War I, Steve Trevor, Diana of Themyscira has maintained a low profile. Now it's 1984, and a new threat has emerged, making her wish for some very different outcomes. Okay, so before we get into this, which... Wow, we're going to get into... Hopefully this goes fast, honestly, because I don't know that there's a ton for us to really break down here. But
interesting.
Okay, so what I want to talk about here right off the bat is written by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and Dave Callahan. Now, Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns returning from the first movie. Jeff Johns has history with comic books in general. We know, for anybody who doesn't know, Jeff Johns was... He kind of ran DC for a little while in terms of everything that was going on from comics, from the comic perspective. He created Stargirl. He wrote a whole bunch of Green Lantern. He did Justice League. He did lots of stuff, and for the most part, well received.
Yeah,
I would say
by me even.
Yeah.
Meaning, because I don't know, like, I'm not as well versed in comics as you are, and don't have like one author oftentimes that I can say I know stuff about. But at this point, I've been through some of his Shazam, less of his Green Lantern, but still Blackest Night, Brightest Day, and Stargirl, like you said. So right.
Yeah. Now, Patty Jenkins, again, coming back from the first movie, she had a it was the first Wonder Woman film on its own. She put it together. She brought something pretty interesting. It took place during World War I. It was a fun movie. I think most people enjoy that movie that enjoy comic book films, and I think most people also agree that it does fall apart a bit at the end because the CG is just really bad. There's no other way of putting it. The CG for what they did when it came down to her fighting Ares, it was not good, especially in comparison to some other stuff.
I will certainly entertain that argument. For me, actually, my downs were I wasn't super into Chris Pine's performance, actually, in some key moments.
Sure.
And it had more of the, less about it looking bad, but more of the kind of Superman, my gosh, was that? Now I can't remember which Superman
Batman
it was,
versus Superman, where the dark side stuff. No,
though that's not the thing. That where a lot of the movie was good, and then the end just was a complete fireball of loudness and it must have been Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, when they destroy all of Metropolis and people lose their minds.
Just a big loud boom boom.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was more my issue with Wonder Woman, and not because it was a bad boom boom even, but because it just didn't mesh with the rest of the movie, much like that Superman movie that had all of those fantastic Kansas parts, with the stuff with Kevin Costner. Yeah.
Diane Lane, yeah. But I wanna talk about Dave Callahan here.
Yeah, do, because I don't even recognize the name.
I didn't either. I wanted to know what this guy had done, and after watching this movie, going, holy crap, what happened here? I don't know where he was in terms of writing, but he's listed as one of the screenplay writers. His name is on this.
It's not story by or anything. It's not a story credit. It's a straight up screen.
No, he is credited as a writer, screenplay by. Here are the other things he's done, and this explains a ton for me.
We got a Jan de Bont coming in here.
It's way worse than Jan de Bont. Jan de Bont had some success.
Check out last week's show.
Doom, the 2005 Doom with Carl Urban and The Rock. The terrible, terrible, terrible movie Doom.
Wait, I didn't understand.
What don't you understand?
How you described that. Because Jan de Bont peaked with...
Yes, Jan de Bont had success.
His first movie, Speed.
This guy had none.
No, but you just mentioned Doom.
Yeah, shut up. Doom, a movie called Horseman, a movie called Telltale, the screenplay for The Expendables.
Which I also liked, so I don't know what's happening.
Again, not a good movie. He is credited as story for Godzilla 2014.
Not a huge fan.
He was the creator for the Jean-Claude Van Damme TV show, Jean-Claude Van Johnson, which, while humorous, not good. Yes, that was on Amazon. And he wrote Zombieland, Double Tap. This guy is based...
I thought you liked that one.
I have not seen Double Tap.
Oh, okay. That's right. You like the first one.
I did like the first one just fine. It's not great. I also rewatched that somewhat recently and went, oh, this movie is kind of dull and drags on and doesn't do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, it's not a very good movie. This guy has basically not done anything good. And every one of I get it. Doom is fun. It's not good in any respect. There is not one good quality piece of that movie outside of the fact that Carl Urban is in it and that we get the one weird bit with the first person perspective. That I'm going to go ahead and give to the director over this jag.
I'm going to have to rewatch the movie.
Okay, yeah, that's you know what? If I hated myself as much as you hate me, I would also.
In fact, tune in next week when we do.
So we've got two people who have some familiarity here with this world of DC and just comics in general, and then Dave Callahan, who has very little, somehow failed upwards. We're not sure.
Very little experience with movies, even.
What I'm gonna say right off the bat is everything in terms of the writing for this movie, with save a couple of lines here or there, and this story are just not good. That's the best way I can put it is I feel like this movie is, I don't understand how this movie sat for so long and nobody said anything. This was approved, okayed, filmed, and this is what we got. It's not good. I loved Wonder Woman. I was a significantly bigger fan than you were of that movie. No, it's not even a matter of here's the thing. It's not even a matter of the fact that this movie is good or bad. It's that it's figured out a way to make Diana of Themyscira boring as hell. It's figured out a way to put 2.5 hours of these characters and make them boring. With nothing whatsoever tying it together in a meaningful way. So poorly done in so many ways. The things I can say positive about it, I actually like all the actors. I think they were all fine in their role. I think they did the best they could do with the terrible dialogue they were given. And I think that in some cases, we got elevated dialogue based on the person giving it out, not the actual dialogue itself. The movie definitely sits far lower. This is, I'm going to say it, Ryan, and I'm not going to take it back.
Don't.
This movie is maybe as bad or possibly worse than Suicide Squad.
No,
that's
dude,
no.
Whatever.
Because look, Here's
you
the
like
difference.
Suicide Squad.
It's
like
also
that movie.
It is also the one on the bottom of my DC list. It is by like a margin. There's no question here. But at least Suicide Squad knew what it was and had some semblance of keeping in touch with what it is. This is trying to be more than it is, and it fails on almost every level. There were some great moments. There were some very cool sequences, things that I really liked, but this is totally I've said this before about movies where there are some movies where, if we've both talked about this. If you think too hard about it, it falls apart. You can't think about this movie at all. The messages, like the idea behind truth and love and all that stuff, like that clear attempt at having those be thematic, like those stand to the test of time. Everything that Diana says about those things works and makes sense. The struggle that she has to a degree with the Steve Trevor thing, okay, but boy, does it just not live up to any of those promises. Even on its own, take it out of the DC extended universe, whatever the hell you want to call it. This movie is just, there is so many things that just don't work. They just don't work.
Okay. Going back a little tiny bit, I'm curious, because you did mention Patty Jenkins in the same breath as Jeff Johns. How much experience does Patty Jenkins have with comic books? I'm curious, actually. I'm not calling her out.
Nope. As far as I know, she got Wonder Woman, and that was, I have no idea if she.
That's kind of what I always assumed, and again, not in a bad way. I was just curious after you said that.
It is what it is. You know, that just because you're not super into comic books doesn't mean you can't make something successful.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
yes.
Again,
yes.
I would say by and large, the first movie successful. Like that works for what it is.
Okay.
I think it's a great Wonder Woman movie.
Okay, so for this movie, I kind of want to go through chronologically, actually, because I think this movie, we're going to diverge here quite a bit and in some key areas. It's not amazing. It's not my favorite, whatever. It is somewhere in the middle, but yes. I do want to go through chronologically because I think that it falls into some common traps with movie making, period. And I think we watch so many of these, obviously, me and you especially doing this show where we kind of get to pick and choose some of our favorite movies. It can be easy to forget that it's not easy.
Sure.
That some movies are just an incredible amount of luck and skill and just so much could go wrong. And I think some of those things do go wrong with Wonder Woman 1984. But it's at the moments that they go wrong that I kind of want to talk about in context.
Great.
So to start off at the beginning, because I think this movie does have a beginning and an ending, and I like them, and I think they're strong.
Sure.
And I think oftentimes when starting out with movies, that those are the two things that you do have. It's the part in the middle that you gotta figure out, and some people don't. Some people do.
All right.
But at the beginning of this movie, we get two things right at the top. We get a beautiful flashback back to Themyscira. I'm glad we did, in fact, because we wouldn't have gone there at all if we didn't, right?
Yeah, I liked that a lot. Yeah, that was...
And I like their portrayal of Themyscira. Like, I liked it in the first movie. I like it here. Like, I'm glad we got to go there. And it's in the form of this kind of Olympics. Like, it's a bunch of trials and feats of strength. And Diana being the small little girl running through them with all these older women. It was fantastic. I super loved that.
Loved it.
And I loved the dialogue that went along with it about, and these are the two words you're going to hear a million times, truth and lies versus, I guess, the short versus the long path. Okay.
Cheating versus not cheating. But yes, it's taking the shortcuts in life, like the shortcut.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of the reason I'm having trouble verbalizing it is because it's not incredibly well verbalized cinematically in the movie. So at the beginning, we do get these very clear-cut notions of, because Diana goes through the race and she cheats, she takes a shortcut because she fell off her horse, blah, 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 gets to the end, almost wins, but she's pulled because she quote-unquote cheated. Basically sets up this idea of you're not ready for it. Essentially, her mother, or is Robin Wright Penn her mother?
It's not. It's Antiope.
Okay. Basically saying to her that she's not ready, and she screams as a little child, when will I be ready? And she's like, don't worry, you'll be ready for this and more. And then that's right. And then her mother does come and kind of follows up on some of that. This is followed up with a scene of Pedro Pascal's character, Max Lord? Okay. I was going to say that, but then, oh, shoot.
Maxwell Lord.
I think I have read some Max Lord comics now that I mention it. Did he figure in...
You definitely have. Almost certainly.
Crisis, briefly?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So does Barbara. That's Barbara. So Barbara takes on the mantle of Cheetah post-Crisis.
Okay. She wasn't always... That hasn't always been Cheetah.
Cheetah has existed since Wonder Woman. Like, she was created by...
She's Silver Age at the least, right? Golden Age?
By Marsden. I think that's his last name, the guy who created. But she was... she basically wore almost like a Catwoman style outfit without a full mask. It was just like she had like a thing that covered her head that had like Cheetah, a look to her, but she wasn't Cheetah, and it wasn't Barbara Minerva either right off the bat. Barbara shows up post-Crisis, and she
it's cool. Yeah, no.
In the comics, she somehow, I don't remember why or how, but she ends up drinking something or getting a potion, and that turns her into the Cheetah.
Okay. Sure.
But it was more of a, like, for her, it was more of a defensive thing. If memory serves, like, she had to get out of something or she was in trouble, and she took that because it would help her, but she didn't know that the downside was she would become a cheetah.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, that could be shades of that in this movie, I guess. But
and Max Lord, if I remember correctly, has like telepathy in the comics. He's not just a regular dude.
Didn't gather that. Yeah, no, I think I saw him briefly again in, like I said, Crisis, and I think maybe Brightest Day or Blackest Night real quick, right? But he doesn't come back.
Maybe?
I can't remember. I read today.
Anyway, yeah.
Not at all what I'm going for. So in the movie, Pedro Pascal, Max Lord, is introduced in a way, and in 1984, and this to me is the greatest promise of this movie, I thought, at the time. Because while I loved the look, and that trailer is killer, man, for Wonder Woman 1984, it was kind of like, I hope it does more than just looking cool, because that looked and sounded cool, that trailer did. But the 80s are a period of time that happened, and
debatable.
Yeah, some things in there are ripe, especially nowadays, for where we're at, for discussion, for treatment. And when Max Lord shows up and is basically this
life is good
kind of
but
MLM guy. Yeah, no, he's a TV personality that has some commercials that everybody recognizes him from. But more specifically, he is this kind of multi-level marketing guy or whatever. Like, we see an early argument with him and another guy who calls what he's doing a Ponzi scheme. Like, the 80s was that. And they don't leave it there. So I think somebody knew, like somebody understood. If you think about that time period where, if you were watching TV, you were watching rich lifestyles of the rich and famous, Donald Trump was in the news. He wasn't president. He was just some dude that had money and was worshipped for that. Like, the 80s were messed up, dude. Like, Reagan's president and the deficits going sky high bonkers.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? Reagan if we don't have Reagan, we don't have the well, that's not necessarily true, but we don't have the myth of trickle down economics beating the crap out of us for the rest of our lives.
And that too, right? And the world worshipped these people, like they had the idea, and at the same time they're convincing them, well, yeah, give us all the money and it'll trickle down to you. Like, who even, it blows my mind, like, obviously looking back, that people thought that would work, because it's clearly not working now.
They still think that,
but that they would straight up call it trickle down, and somebody would be like, yeah, like, what? That doesn't even sound like a good thing. So I think the 80s is kind of ripe for this, and the fact that Max Lord is this Trump, like, and I'm not talking about, this is going to be weird, because not necessarily Trump nowadays. I think by the end of the movie, spoiler, it is a Trump nowadays thing. But in this sense, he's a Trump in the 80s that is just, or I guess wants to be, right?
No. Like, no. Be real clear. I mean, the reality of Trump is something that most people just don't even want to acknowledge for a variety of reasons. The guy is a failure on every level financially. And even in the 80s, when he did have some money, he was still failing constantly with bankruptcies, with all of that stuff. Max Lord is actually a great analogy for him, because he is the Trump that has no money, but he's still got enough money to make himself look like he's got money.
And I think the fact that this is seen as like a prosperous time in our country when we're so in debt and worshiping these people that appear to have money but don't, like that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
That there's so much here to talk about from especially then until now, that at the beginning of this movie, when I see, the philosophy of Diana being, you'll win when you're ready. You can't have it all right now just because you want it. This very childlike want to have it all, to not understand what being spoiled means or how that can even be damaging or something like that. To set it up against the Pedro Pascal's, or I'm sorry, I'm gonna do him a disservice again. I'm gonna do somebody a disservice in the movie by calling them by their given name instead of their character's name. But to then set up his point of view that he does want it all immediately. He wants that MLM. He wants that Ponzi scheme. Like, he is that guy. He is the 80s. He is that. And I'm bringing a little bit into this, I'll be honest, and I did have to do some of the work for this movie, so I think that might be where it's not where we're diverging in that I had to do some of the work. We're diverging in that what I brought to this was, seeing my parents go in for, I don't know how many MLMs growing up in the 80s, early 90s and stuff like that. So it hits a little close to home. I'll give it that. And I think the promise is there. This movie is so promising to me at the beginning.
Yes, it is.
And I do love Pedro Pascal. I think he does a great. I do, in fact, the question held true that I do now like him in two things, it seems.
Boom.
So
the dose.
He was good. Like, I had fun watching him, and I think he embodied that character pretty well.
Absolutely. I liked him a lot. I will get out in front of this too. Love Kristen Wiig. I actually loved almost every scene she was in. I loved her, the way I actually love the way that she plays Minerva, and that the way even as she turns, totally into it.
And that was my favorite part, actually, when she did turn, because we all know that Wiig can play Barbara, like at the beginning of the movie, right? She's played a billion characters like that. It's when Barbara gains confidence and just comes onto the screen and Wiig freaking nails it. You're like, oh man, she can do
totally, absolutely.
Like, she can do this. This is freaking rad. Yeah. Totally loved her too. Yeah, totally.
The one thing I can say about her, which I think this is maybe the biggest question you have going into this, knowing anything about these characters and how Cheetah has always been a Wonder Woman villain, is we know the strength of Gal Gadot. We know that she does easily she oozes the confidence. She oozes the strength of Wonder Woman to me.
Still got it. Yeah.
Kristen Wiig totally sets up perfectly when she gets that confidence as a foil. Like, she fits that. Like, she came on and she had that, like, wow, you're throwing it right back at her in the best way. And that fight between them when they're in the I don't even remember where they are, the White House.
Not the final fight. Yeah, they're in like the White House or something. I'm guessing you're talking
about. It's amazing. That was a fantastic bit of back and forth between the two of them, and the fight itself was well choreographed. Really liked it. Yeah.
Speaking of fights, it's not too long into the beginning of this movie when you realize, or I realized, that it's not an action movie.
Not at all. Nope.
And I think that might be where some of the tension comes from, especially some of the reviews that you'll see out there. Some of the less thought out reviews, especially because I myself had to resist that tendency to be like, hey, there's not a lot of fighting happening, and that's okay, right? Like,
sure.
I can't immediately dislike this movie because she's not having it is introed. The character intros are great. The beginning of the movie is great. And there's a cool bit of action with her in the mall and all that, which I think you get a lot of that in the trailer. I don't know, but
yeah,
that's
most
cool.
of it.
And then it's not action packed. I can't even, I want to say it's well into the second act before another action piece happens. In fact, it might be the signaling of kind of the downturn for the movie for me.
Well, so we need to get to the crux of this film, is that opening sequence in terms of the fight in the mall. is doubles as not only a reminder that Diana is the Wonder Woman. She makes sure that she's destroying cameras where she's at because she's still trying to keep herself low profile. But we find out that there was a jewelry store that's been fencing things and selling stuff on the black market, and something very in particular, antiques. Yes. Something very in particular is stolen, and basically the FBI has found a number of antiques, one of them being a rock that they can't figure out the origin for. So that's part of why they bring in Barbara Minerva, who is she works at the Smithsonian with Diana in a different department. She's a gemologist, and she speaks like 10 different languages, and she does all these. Barbara Minerva is a very, very smart person, and they bring her in to identify the rock. And we end up finding out that it's essentially the wishing stone, or a wishing stone. And before we move forward and find out that somehow, some way, Max Lord knows about it and has been tracking it and is desperate to get a hold of it. We have no idea how, why, when any of this came into his like purview, but somehow it does.
He spent years trying, like looking,
somehow finding this thing. Yeah, it's a glossed over plot point of how does he even know about it? I've spent years searching for it. How did you hear about this thing in the first place?
That's one of those thoughtful things where, like, when you say you stop and think about it, it doesn't work because
it falls apart.
How did Pedro Pascal, after years of study and searching, know so much about it, and Barbara did not?
Right, yes, right, exactly.
Or Diana.
Or anybody, like
who knows the god that made the thing by the end? Yeah,
right. So what we end up getting is we get. Basically, Kristen Wiig explains to Barbara, or explains to Diana. Barbara explains to Diana. Let's go with that. Basically, Barbara explains to Diana what it is, or what it's supposed to be, and Diana.
Well, Diana doesn't know right away either. In fact, neither of them know when they make the wish.
Yes,
oh no, I guess
she
they
does
do.
know because because Kristen Wiig tells her, but Barbara tells her that it's supposed to be this wishing stone. It does this thing.
Right.
And what would you wish for? Would you wish for this or this? And she goes, no,
right.
I if I was going to wish, it would be something else. And we immediately know, like there's wind and everything, which is the universal. A wish has happened. So she makes a wish.
And I get blamed for something completely different when there's wind. It's kind of
I blame Shyamalan every time. It's
oh my gosh.
It's a happening.
We're moving real quick. I'm going to mention the happening at some point, so let's just keep that in your back pocket.
Yeah. Then shortly after Diana makes the wish in her own head, she doesn't say it out loud.
Right.
Barbara makes a wish, basically saying she wishes she was more like Diana,
right.
Not knowing that Diana is Wonder Woman. So she essentially gives herself, without knowing what she knows, the power of a god.
Right. Yeah, it happens. Come on.
It's going to happen.
So Chris Pine comes back because of that, and Cheetah gets her powers because of that.
And Chris Pine, let's talk about that, because that happens really fast after she makes the wish. So this is another one of those things where don't think about this too hard, because it gets weird if you do.
I feel like that's what we're going to do for the rest of the show.
That's what the show is.
Think about this too hard.
The wish that she clearly makes is she wishes that her one true love, that Steve hadn't died, and that he was still with her.
He inhabits the body of some stranger. He finds Diana at an event, and they reconnect, and we see Chris Pine for the rest of the movie instead of they quantum leap him into.
We do get a pretty great. Like, I actually really like the explanation here. It's simple. It works.
Yeah. I actually didn't have a problem with that.
There is another issue I have with it, though. So the explanation that we get for seeing Chris Pine and Steve Trevor is that, yes, he teleports into somebody else's body, essentially, or takes over the consciousness of somebody that already exists. And Diana says, I know it's not you, but you're all I see. Something like that. From that moment on, we had one brief sequence where we see this other guy, and now we're just seeing Steve Trevor. So
it's a cool 360 thing, and Sean Connery's speaking English by the end of it. It's great.
Yeah. So the one again, think about it too hard. The problem I have here is that like to me, that's a signal of now we're seeing everything through Diana's eyes.
Okay.
Because he's always there, but that doesn't work for the rest of the movie. Like it just doesn't. It doesn't work. Like it's.
I mean, it does, in that she's the protagonist. Like this movie is told through her eyes. Essentially, that's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
It's mathematically no.
That's, and I think that's part of the issue is that like that becomes the only thing that we're consistently seeing. Everything else, yeah, I mean. Maybe it's naivete or something for a woman who's now been alive for over 100 years or something. But like the way she reacts to some things, the way she handles, like just some of it does not come across as we're seeing it through Diana's perspective. We're seeing it from a different view.
You're right. Like if we break it down mathematically, we shouldn't see Steve Trevor when Diana's not in the room. We should see the other guy or something like that.
I don't even care about that. Like that, but I don't even think I don't think we ever see Steve without her.
That's probably true also. Which is kind of fine too, because it is kind of occupies this wishy-washy area.
No, she got what she wanted. She wanted to be with him, so she's with him throughout the time. It's like I'm like she's spending the time with him that she has.
Yes. But everybody else sees him. That's not like I guess I didn't have as much of a problem with that. I just am not sure, because I did have some issues with Pine's performances in the last Wonder Woman movie, especially in key areas. I'm starting to wonder after this movie if maybe I just don't like him in these movies. Honestly.
Not your Steve Trevor.
It didn't help that some of the fish out of water stuff didn't necessarily land. I like in fact, it's pretty soon after, maybe one of the first things they do when he pops up is they do a reverse Pretty Woman on him.
Yeah.
I like that. Yep. That's fine.
Sure.
But
that would have all been great if we hadn't seen it a year ago in every trailer.
Or in Dumb and Dumber,
Dumb and Dumberer.
3 decades ago. It's fine, but like some of the fish out of water stuff, I think for the most part, I was just like, I don't think I liked him in this movie. Maybe he wasn't given great material. I don't know. So that might have colored some of my opinion there. But it's wrapped up in these moments where, because the movie isn't action-packed, and again, I tried to resist, wanting it to be for a bit. And I think when I did get over the hump, I was glad that I was there, because it does do some stuff that I'm really happy with, especially in a comic book movie or whatever. In any movie, I guess I should just start saying now. But this movie, figuratively and literally, takes the time to fly through the fireworks, is the phrase I'm going to go with for the rest of the show, right? There's this moment where they're up in the air, which, by the way, they steal a jet.
Let's not talk about that, because, boy, are we really going to get into it?
Well, it's tossed off enough that I could see people not liking it, especially since it's like, I don't remember... This power to turn thing invisible didn't exist in the first movie, right?
Nope.
Okay, so we go from 0 to invisible jet in a minute or so.
Which I love. I loved seeing the invisible jet. I even called it out to Beth. It was like when they showed the scene. So let's talk about this then.
I liked seeing the invisible jet too, so I'm curious. Yeah, what?
So they to get to the invisible jet, what essentially happens is they realize that Steve has no passport. He's got nothing, but they've got to get to Egypt to figure out what's going on with this. So they're going to steal a jet, and they're going to steal a jet from the Smithsonian, because what the Smithsonian does in Washington in 1985 for sure is have fully fueled jet fighters just available. So barring that idiocy, then we've got to suspend the disbelief. And here's where I actually have said
a bunch of armed guards at the Smithsonian too.
Sure,
to guard the loaded jets.
Right. So here's where I actually there is some suspension of disbelief that I could have gone with if the movie were better at making me want to. We're jumped into a jet that Diana is not a pilot. She doesn't know how to fly, but Steve was. In World War I. Yeah. Now we're in a jet that
I did catch that.
That is in theory like state-of-the-art 1985 jet. And I did call out, I was like, that kind of looks like the invisible jet. I wonder if they'll figure out a way to do that, like with the radar. So maybe there's like a cloaking device or whatever. Okay. I can suspend the disbelief of Steve Trevor from World War I, now in the body of another guy, being able to kind of figure out how to fly. I'm okay with that.
Well, Steve Trevor, like that.
Steve Trevor he was a great pilot. He was a great spy. Okay, sure. I will go with the he can figure it out real fast. He's not a superhuman, he's not a metahuman, but he is the best of us. Like that's kind of what he is.
Also, he's a resurrected dead guy. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they could have done some work with I know kung fu or something. You know, I don't know.
Right, sure. But okay, I'll I'll let that go. But then we're given this. So she is realizing, or at least we're realizing very quickly, that the wish has negative impacts and that she is losing her powers. And at some point during this flying through everything, she figures out, well, you know, I somehow I'm able to make things invisible. I've never been able to do it for more than a second, but we'll try it now. And then she thinks real hard and the jet's invisible.
Yeah, we go from 0 to invisible jet in less than a minute. And while I liked seeing the invisible jet, I'll give you that.
Loved seeing the invisible jet. It's just one of those things of
there are a few tossed off things in this film.
Not only is that extremely tossed off, one of the problems I kind of ultimately have is, and this is actually a symptom of the DCEU as a whole. Nothing was planned out about this. Why the hell is Diana suddenly able to do all of these things now, but she didn't do any of this stuff in the future when Batman and Superman and Doomsday, and the Justice League, none of this. It's a bunch of stuff that because they didn't think to do it, because they didn't have ready. There are a billion reasons story-wise why. But ultimately, yeah, that's a frustrating part because it is such a specific thing that they're like, oh, that's cool. Tossed off.
I think we're about 3 parentheticals down. So I'm going to go back first, how we started getting into the flying through the fireworks, because once they're in the air, they take the time. Is it on the 4th of July? Yeah, they're like, oh right, yes. 4th of July. Like, okay, sure, whatever.
Well, sure, it's got to be.
COVID happened. It's been in the hopper for a while. This probably could have come out at summertime. I
think it was supposed to
at some point. It was maybe planned to. Yeah. But they do. They fly through the fireworks in their invisible jets, and it's this nice slow moment. And in at the time,
beautiful sequence,
yeah, I'm like, this is cool. I am happy that there is a movie out there that takes this sort of time. It does so beautifully. I hope it turns into something better. Not that I hope it turns into something better. I hope that it's wrapped up.
No takebacks.
In a. I hope that it's wrapped up in a good package, I guess is what I should say. And there are several more moments like this. And now we'll go forward to something you mentioned. I'm curious how much of it was being hamstrung by the previous movies. Because, yeah, the times where we do see action and she does interact with other people while she's doing it, she tells them to be quiet, or this is our little secret about it or something. I'm like, why does she keep doing that? And then I'm like, oh, because she didn't exist. Batman didn't know she exists. Nobody knew her, until Batman versus Superman, and he found her and pulled her out or whatever. That was that movie, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you think this movie was hamstrung by that a little bit?
No, because I mean, that it was actually a smart reason to put it in 1984 because CCTV isn't quite everywhere yet, so there's lots of ways to keep her from being visually seen. They show her knocking down the cameras and stuff in the mall, like I said. I don't think so, but it's one of those, I would say, no, not at all, because they do things like the invisible jet, where if they were feeling hamstrung by that stuff, they would never have done that. Because I mean that and then she does the whirlwind with her with the lasso, and then on top of that she learns to fly in this movie. That it's less being hamstrung here and more, why was none of this part of the other movies?
Okay.
Batman versus Superman. We don't want to have Wonder Woman fly because that would be too far.
I think I also have to resist the impulse in myself to want an out and out Wonder Woman movie where she's just freaking kicking butt everywhere she goes, even though first movie was kind of that. So I guess I don't know. When I figured out that, it seems like they're doing this a little too purposefully to jive with the other movies, I guess I was not completely satisfied, but you're right. I can buy it. I think we're okay. It's not the worst issue that we're going on here, but I think it brings us right up to where stuff goes off the rails for me, and it's where they do finally get to Egypt and they're dealing with a prince because they follow Max Lord there because he part of his investments is in oil, and I think that's what he's trying to become a magnate of. We should mention that when he steals the wish stone,
right, yes,
his wish is to become the wish stone. So,
which again, brilliant idea.
Sure,
love that in concept.
Sure. What we don't know yet, what hasn't been communicated real well yet, and I hate the way it is verbalized in the movie, is that when somebody makes a wish, something is also taken away from you. And they equate it to the monkey's paw, which I guess that episode of The Twilight Zone would have been out at that point. Although,
actually, it's The Simpsons. So let's go ahead.
It's probably worse than that, in that wasn't created by the Twilight Zone, or I don't know.
The monkey's paw is an old story, yeah.
But the fact that they refer that, like they use that as shorthand throughout the rest of the movie. They're like, oh, the monkey paw thing. And I'm like, don't call it that anymore. Just call it like the curse, or even, like that I didn't like, but that's not told to us right away anyway. So Max Lord wishes to become the stone. So essentially by people touching him and saying they wish for something, the wish is granted. So to increase his oil holdings, he goes to the top oil dude in the Middle East and is like, tell me what you wish. And the guy tells him, oh, I wish I had, all my ancestral lands and people back, or something like that. And he's like, okay, I'll take your oil. And then the guy's like, I don't have any oil. Like, I already got rid of that stuff. But this is, again, before maybe I'm slow. I feel like they hadn't explained real well that that's how it's going to work. That once he grants a wish, he can take whatever he wants from them. Like, never communicated real well.
Nope.
And
that was it. That's how it's communicated.
Okay. Right.
That's totally how it's communicated.
And it's basically fuzzy is going to be another word you hear a lot of. Things get kind of fuzzy from here on out, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And that's just maybe the tip of the iceberg, honestly. Eventually it comes to the plot from Bruce Almighty where he just answers yes to every prayer. I don't know if
Yep.
Remember that? Okay.
Oh yeah, we absolutely.
And the lesson is essentially the same. Like I'm hoping there's more to it. I'm like, okay, funny. This is essentially the plot from Bruce Almighty, but that's a comedy, and that is the joke. Even though by the end, I guess in fact, this is maybe a sad commentary. I think by the end of Bruce Almighty, it is figured into the plot a lot firmer than it is here.
Oh yeah.
Because number one, I don't even understand at that point that it is, there's a negative thing to each. And I don't understand that until third act, when he finally says it out loud, because he is deteriorating as a person the more wishes he grants. But his idea being that as he grants more wishes, the thing he takes from them, he will give to himself. And I forget even the words he used. He's like, I will heal myself with their curses, or something like that. And that line I just said off the top of my head is way better than what comes out of that movie.
Right. No, so that one of the conversations I had yesterday, actually with the owner of the comic book shop, was that he was like, I didn't understand how the curses worked until the end. And apparently this is maybe this is just me being me. But it became pretty apparent to me that there was something wrong when she got shot.
Yes.
Like, she doesn't get shot, and then she got shot, and she was like, I've been shot. And like, that's like the second act. That's early in the second act too.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, so that's the price of Steve coming back, is that she's not as strong as she was.
And I guess I was fine with not getting that right away. Like the fact, she got shot, and I'm like, I mean.
And then with him, it makes sense.
I feel like they never out and out say or show that her skin is bulletproof. They don't show like the bullet. They just like ching ching, or she's doing it with the bracelets or something like that. But you're right. There is, especially that action sequence when I'm like, this isn't super compelling, even as an action sequence. And then I'm like, she got shot. And then a little bit later, I'm like, okay, I think there is a cost going. Like, I think this is on purpose, not just bad,
right?
But the fact that I don't know is a little telling, I guess.
Sure. Well, and then with Lord, it was okay. You're going to become the Wish Stone. We already know Diana can be. We learned that Diana can be shot. Okay, so you becoming the stone means you're going to lose all your humanity. That's what you're going to lose, because that's what you've given up. You want to become a rock and roll, so go for it. and also, here's something that I want to point out, that we're 40 minutes into this discussion, and at no point have we mentioned the fact that, oh, by the way, Max has a son.
I mean,
that is a thread that you're given at the beginning where he's like, you're going to be proud of me. Then it's dropped until the end where it's, oh yeah, Max has a son.
He's brought back. You're right. There, it's
the
at the
third
beginning.
act. He's in the first act and the third act, and we don't see him at all during the second act.
No, there's one other. It's slight. Let's say.
Is
I'm
it?
pretty sure. We don't know.
I don't remember the kid showing up. He's at the beginning where he basically is sitting there listening to his dad get berated by the guy who tells him it's a Ponzi scheme. And his dad says, oh, I'm going to teach them all. I'm going to learn. Then he goes to Egypt.
He's a device.
Then he's bouncing around. Yeah. And it's, I hated it because it is the easiest way out. And not only is it such an easy cop out to, because as soon as the kid showed up, both Beth and I were like, well, that's how this is going to, that's the resolution. Mm-hmm. It's the kid. But it's the fact that he's not a good father at any point. And then at the very end,
he loves his son. That much is communicated.
Does he? I mean,
he loves him like an imperfect man. That to me, there wasn't a question. Yes, he's a bad dad that doesn't understand that actions equal.
The only thing I got, this is a Trump thing. I don't know that Trump cares about his kids. The only thing he cares about.
Well, they're not him.
The only thing, and the only thing that he has ever cared about is quote unquote respect and what people will give him. And that's Matt. And even at the end of the movie, when we get our resolution with it, it's so stupid because the kid is left alone in a building for how long, and where the kid has been running around. We don't know. He's suddenly there. Who's been watching him? Where has he been the whole movie? I don't know. Sitting in an office building, apparently.
Had work to do.
And then the kid's like, well, this is not a good spot. I'm going to run away from everything. And I'm going to wish for my dad, even though it's not going to do anything. And it's just.
So let's get there, because basically
the kid was a bad plot device.
Yes, that is for sure. Basically, from where we're at with the prince until middle of the third act, I stopped taking notes really. And it is.
What's there to take notes on?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
It gets a little bit lost. The kind of the novelty of it taking its time with some stuff is a little bit lost. It's not maybe as gorgeous. Maybe they don't have so many of those moments. I have a feeling that if I watched it again, I could pick more out of it, obviously.
Yeah, sure. And I'm definitely going to rewatch it. I've rewatched all of these, so it's not a question,
But essentially, the tension becomes Diana needs to renounce her wish, which was Steve, in order to get her powers back so that she can combat Cheetah. But unfortunately, why she needs to beat Cheetah isn't really given any more motivation than at the end to save the world, because once everybody gets their wishes, the world is devolving into, the president gets his wishes to have more nukes, and the
Russians are going to fire their nukes because these for the Russians, they don't know about the nukes, so they just pop up on.
So the world is ending because everybody gets their wish. So the only way to save it is for everybody to renounce their wish. And this is where I'll bring up a few things that we touched on earlier. You did mention The Happening. I think one of the problems with this film, especially by the end and by the time they want to make it kind of a 1-2 punch or whatever what do they call that? The showdown, the third act showdown. Cinematically, all we get from Max Lord is a bunch of wind. And Diana walks into the room, and he's literally hand waving while he says "granted, granted, granted" at her, and it's blowing her back a little bit.
And he's saying things like, "I'll take your
yes.
vim and your vigor." Those are not words he uses, but I like them. I can't think of anything else.
And this is after his out and out explanation to Barbara on the plane that he will heal himself with the curses that he's taking.
And the reason, and let's also be clear that the reason Barbara the reason Diana has to go through Barbara is because of the bit at the White House where Diana was going to make Max renounce everything or whatever, and Barbara showed up to stop it because she doesn't want to lose her powers. And then
Which I get. That part is fine.
So it's fine.
Just that that's all it comes down to at the end is that she's another person that needs to renounce her wish.
And she doesn't
that's the only reason they need to fight. And it's kind of, it didn't, I don't know if it was enough for me, honestly.
Not only was, I mean, that for that fight to happen, I actually am fine with that. That works for me. Okay. Because Barbara has now tasted something that she's never had. And we're given a very clear at the beginning how she feels about herself, that she has no friends, she has no confidence, so all of that lands for me as why she would not want Max to have the wishes taken away from him.
And I get that, and I've seen that enough times in movies that makes perfect sense.
Sure.
I don't think the movie got there for me with it, and I think that's going to be a theme, because as we get more towards the end of this final dialogue from Diana, before to finish my point about the happening, cinematically, the whole wish thing just never pans out, essentially, is what it is. It has the essentially same problems that the happening had, where it's,
show don't tell, except you have nothing to show.
Yeah, and they don't. And I'm not even saying that it couldn't be done. There's probably a way, but they settled on the wrong one, and it didn't work. In the end, it didn't work.
The most hilarious wish we get is, I wish I had coffee.
Oh, that's early on, though, right?
Yeah. What happened to that guy that was negative?
You're right. Okay. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yikes.
You're right. They should have had him taking a sip and being like,
"It's cool.
No sweetener."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's cold. You're right.
Ew, hazelnut.
Now that's The Simpsons right there. The turkey is a little dry.
It's still good. It's still good.
Okay. So it comes down to this showdown. There's a lot of wind. Diana does get thrown back into a corner, and as she's sitting there, and a single tear rolls from her eye. And again, I agree with you with Gal Gadot. I loved her in this movie. I love her in this character. She's great. But as a single tear rolls from her eyes, she says, "This world was a beautiful place, just as it was, and you cannot have it all. You can only have the truth, and the truth is enough." Now, when I say this movie has a beginning and an end, you're already shaking your head. I get that it's a little spot on. I get that it's a little saccharine. But when I first saw it, I was like, I didn't think that's what this was about. And then I went back and watched the beginning just to be sure. And yes, it's there in that first opening exercise, where she gets the words from her mother Antiope,
and yes, her mother is Hippolyta.
Antiope. And basically there are a lot of words about truth and lies, and taking the short path, or it not being easy, or you can't have it all. It works. And I think it's at that point that I get that, okay, this movie wanted to combine those things in a way, truth and lies, truth versus lies, short path versus long path, earning it versus getting it. It wanted to combine both of those things and have a singular lesson, but I never took that trip, essentially. Nope. I don't think it was able to take me with it for the duration of the movie. It has a beginning and an end. Mm-hmm. It's obvious the things it wants to say, and I like them. When she does in that corner say those words, and the rest of it is she goes into, the world's a beautiful place, just as it was. You can not have it all. You can only have the truth, and the truth is enough. Max Lord hears that and is like, why would I renounce my wish when I finally have it all, when it's finally my turn? And I have spoken to people that have voted for Trump for essentially this reason.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And I get it in that it's a very human thing, right? The people that I love that did vote for somebody like Trump were angry. And, I'm no stranger also to this feeling of, when is it going to be my time? I grew up a nerd, bullied, whatever, all that stuff. Okay. When is it going to be my time? I guess technically it would be now. So this is, I don't know.
You were a Goonie. Everybody is a Goonie at some point.
There you go. That's good. Let's go watch the Goonies.
Okay.
It's strong and amazing. When she says those words, and again, I'm bringing something to this. She continues, "You're not the only one who has suffered." This would be then her response to Trump voters. You're not the only one who has suffered. Essentially calling out their selfishness. Voting for somebody like this because they felt disempowered
voting for somebody that does all the wrong things with power, it's a selfish move. It truly is. And for her to be like, I get that. All right. I get that. And Trump says there's nothing wrong with that. Trump lauds that. People like Trump say that's fine. Be selfish for a while. It's the freaking objectivist thread that's been through conservatism for I don't know how many years now.
Greed is good, baby.
It's so garbage. I hate it.
Yeah, no, it's trash.
For all these conservative, like Christian, like whatever, to rally around that at any point, I'm like, what? How? Right? So when she says stuff like that, and she says, you're not the only one who has suffered, who wants more, who wants them back, who doesn't want to be afraid anymore, or alone, or frightened, or powerless, because you're not the only one who imagined a world where everything was different, better, finally. But what is it costing you? Do you see the truth? Like, I get it spot on. I don't think it's bad. Like, to me, it's powerful and it lands. And at that point, it's amazing. Like that is truly an amazing moment in that movie that is very almost quite possibly worth the price of admission.
Fair enough.
It's just very short. And I don't know that the rest of the movie understood that and communicated that cinematically and helped me take that trip with it throughout. Right. I know it didn't. I'm being polite.
I love where so you the way you explain that and the way you make me think about it, that lands a whole lot more, and I actually really liked it. I liked that this movie doesn't end with her beating the crap out of him. This movie doesn't end with a fight.
Right?
It's
a better ending than the first movie at the very least.
It ends with heart, and I liked that. I like it more the way you explain it. My problem with that overall ending is that it is so not earned.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
That is not an earned ending. It's a great ending for a movie that didn't earn it. Because I'm sure that there will be at least one person who listens to this that asks the question, wait, when does she become a cheetah? Doesn't she become a cheetah? Yeah. Here's how this is stupid. When she gets on the plane at the end, she says, I don't want to just be a person. I want to be something more. I want to be an apex predator.
I love that line.
Love the line. Why does it make her into a cat? Why is it like, I want to be an apex predator? Okay, cat. You're now a cheetah.
You're gonna have to do the rest of the show.
Did I break you on that one? Like that's my biggest question throughout the whole movie. Nothing else. Everything else. Like, all right, fine. For as mediocre as all this is, but that's the one. Now, here's the one thing I actually really like. In terms of that ending. So, Max renounces his wish. He gains his humanity back. He goes and finds his son. And I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
It turns out during that diatribe, she had the lasso wrapped around his leg. So he's like, why would I do that? And she's like, I wasn't talking to you. Because earlier in the movie, they established that the lasso can also show people the truth more than just make them tell the truth, which I liked. And that was fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sorry.
Something I actually really, really, really liked, though.
I feel like you were going somewhere and I totally derailed.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
It's still good. It follows that is that we get one after everything is kind of cleared up and Max has renounced his wish. We are thrown back to a shot of Kristen Wiig after Barbara's been beaten. She's still on the roof of wherever the heck they were fighting. I don't even know where they were fighting. Honestly, I don't remember.
Power plant somewhere.
Sure. Why not? Something. Maybe it was a TV station. Maybe that's what it was.
Oh yeah, because that's where Max Lord at some point that was kind of a leap too.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean? The satellite broadcast touches people?
Yes, literally the words that he says. He's like, yeah, we have all these things up so the satellites touch people. He's like, wait, the particles or something like that. I'm like,
oh come on. That does actually that's maybe the one bit though that does kind of feed a little bit into his comic character where he has like the ability to kind of make people think things.
Oh.
But it's
I like that better.
Meta-human thing. It's not because of the wish stone. But what I did like is that I am living in the world where Barbara turns back into looking like Barbara. She loses the cheetah thing because Max is no longer the wishing stone, but she wished on the stone before it was gone and has not renounced her wish. So she's still, I think, Cheetah. She still has all the power. She still has the lack of humanity, the strength, all the things that she gained, because we never ever hear her renounce. And I don't think that just because the stone is no longer the stone, that the wish goes away. She's just constantly going to be. And so ultimately what I think is if they're ever going to make a third one, which apparently has now been greenlit as of like yesterday.
I'm sure this movie's making money and it's not bad. Like I would react against most of what you said in the opening. Like I still was happy with my time.
Let me put it this way. For a movie that is 2 hours and 31 minutes.
It's a long movie.
This movie could have probably been done and been actually a real tight, better movie at an hour 40, hour 45. I don't think you need 2 hours and 30 minutes to tell this story. There's a lot of stuff that I think can go. A lot of stuff that's just not necessary.
Like I would be fine with a longer movie. Like I said, I want to react against me wanting just action or me wanting a quick comic book movie or something like that. Because this is the other thing I'll say. After everything's said and done, I still think this is the DC property that's trying to do the most. Trying to say the most.
I think it has the opportunity. Yeah, I think that I will hold my judgment on that until Shazam 2 comes out, because I think Shazam had a lot to say about family but not maybe not as much as you would have liked for in terms of like what Wonder Woman tries to do. But I do think that it's got the potential.
I love Shazam. I think it's just more of a romp. Right? Like it's kind of like I get it. And it's about family. Like how many times do we have to say that?
I don't know. We've watched how many Fast and Furious movies?
Enough.
It's never. This movie is definitely out of all of them, I think out of any DC movie period, definitely this one is the one trying to say the most. I don't think
and I wouldn't even say this movie, that's why I say this property. Like Wonder Woman and the first and now this, like it seems to be to me to be the DC property that is trying to do more, maybe trying to do the most. And I'm not like me and you were differing degrees of pretty darn fine with Batman versus Superman, to give you any idea. They're just kind of punch fests and fun and comic books and this and that. Like that's fine. But there always still, even with this movie, appears to be a stab at something more. Which, to say, again, that it could be a shorter movie, obviously, yes, this story, you are absolutely right, didn't need to be this long. But I don't want to say that this movie didn't need to be that long. Like, it could have been. There is a way, and I
don't disagree with you. I don't disagree that this movie could be this long. The fact that it is, I think, is the problem.
The problem. Yes, okay.
It's that again, this goes back to I would love to know. I would love to have, one of those pieces of data where they show you like where you get like a bar graph that's got the width of how much somebody did work in terms of the writing on this. I want to see who has the majority writing on this.
Would be nice, yeah.
I'd really, really like. I truly would love to know. I want to know: did Patty Jenkins do a draft, then it got punched up by Jeff Johns and punched up again by Dave Callahan? Was it the other way around? Did Dave Callahan write the whole thing and it got some slight punch up? What happened to this script? Because again, I like so much of what we talked about. And when we talk about it in a streamlined fashion, yeah. But when you put this whole thing together, it's kind of a jumbled mess. That second act is just, there are some straight up, I'm going to say this and you could disagree with me, feel free to, but there are some straight up moments in this movie that are like CW levels of bad acting.
Was Pine involved?
Yes, he
Pine
is.
some of those.
But there is barring some of just the barring, I don't know, the kids playing in the middle of the deserted road, not hearing explosions or seeing cars coming a mile away, we're just going to ignore that. There's a moment right after that where Diana has now been shot again and she's limping and Chris Pine is carrying her. And we are treated to some of the worst background character acting I've ever seen in a movie like this. Like, there's a cop that's on a phone and he goes, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do you want me to do? How should I do it? Like that. Like I just did it, and it's like,
oops, caught somebody asking for direction.
Right. Like, I don't think that guy was even in the
camera.
movie. I think that guy may have just been a dingus cop that was like supposed to be like holding back a crowd from getting on the filming set. And again, there's the little things like I loved more now what Diana said at the end. I hate that somehow the kid who has had no, we're supposed to give into this idea that Max Lord is a loving father regardless of everything he's done, regardless of how we've seen him treat his kid. And that's supposed to be the thing that turns him around. Like, I'm sorry. No, you don't get that from me. You don't get that from, as a parent. I'm not giving you that, because that's awful decision-making as from directing and from writing standpoint. Like, terrible. Really bad.
I will say that now, in this day and age, that's a bit of a leap, right? To give us a Trump analog and then have him be touched in the end. Like, I don't blame anybody for not being able to follow that.
Can't suspend the disbelief on that. I just can't.
I will say that I enjoyed the little flashbacks it gives during Diana's speech at the end, where it shows him kind of coming up. It shows him starting off his first business. In fact, maybe tellingly, it doesn't show us any more loving moments with his son.
Not even one.
It shows us how this Trump guy, started off with good intentions and really, I don't know. I kind of more bought it than didn't, but you're right. I'm not going to blame anybody for not being able to make that leap nowadays.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Is there a conceivable moment in, and this is, I'm asking you a legitimate, like, this is, I know it's going to sound stupid and it's very, very, very different, but it's a question that I have. Could you see any real moment, knowing what you know about Breaking Bad, where Saul can turn around and become a better person again after becoming Saul Goodman? Like, you see what he starts off. Is there a point where you could see him go, I did the wrong thing and now I'm going to actually become a good person?
I mean, you haven't seen Better Call Saul, and honestly,
I've seen the first 2 seasons.
Okay, it's a very good question, because you're asking me to be me, and I'm the guy that's going to say yes, but I just think it's possible that somebody could create that season or 2 or 3 of TV, and by the end, me be like, yeah, okay, Saul's been redeemed or whatever. Like, I'm the guy that will always believe it's possible. So
sure, okay,
you might be getting to the source of something here, but
you're also touching on why this can't work in this movie. And why I honestly would say it can't. It shouldn't work for you at all. Yeah. And it's the fact that how long would that take to get you to realize and recognize and accept that Saul can turn it around?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like 4 little shots from a flashback while he's almost destroying the world. Yeah,
right.
I enjoyed them, and it was 51% maybe worked for me, but yeah, no, yes.
Right. It's I mean, and I'm not saying that. It's more going back to, I feel like some ideas that were planted here are really good ideas. They're really interesting things to touch on, really interesting things to talk about. None of them truly get fleshed out. None of them truly get the attention they deserve. And because of that, even with the whole truth thing, like even with that great monologue at the end, like I said, it's unearned, and it's unearned for all of them. Like, I mean, and by the way,
don't say the cat again. I can't.
Stupid cat. No, during the cat fight, though, the fight with the cat, so the intro scene with young Diana, who, great, loved it again, was definitely supposed to be the moment of, by the way, this is how the golden armor is awarded and all that, and this is how it's used. I hated that.
That's another tossed off thing. There's a bit in the beginning that I forgot, but if you remember when her mom is talking to Diana and she literally points at a statue of I don't have any of the names.
I don't remember the Amazonian who had won it, and
legendary Amazonian woman played by
Linda Carter at the end.
Yes. But yes, there's a bit about it then, and then Steve Rogers like looks
Steve
at
Trevor?
oh sorry,
If Captain
Steve
America were in
Trevor.
this, it'd be a very different movie.
Whichever one. It's a Chris. It's a Chris.
One of the non-bad Chris's.
Looks at like a crate and is like, oh, what's that? She's like, oh, it's the armor. It belonged to this really great woman. I found it. And then they keep going. Like, those are the only two things in the entire movie. And while I love the look of the armor, I love Gal Gadot kicking butt in it by the end of the film.
Love the
everything about it. And for all the obviousness of tie that into identity, tie that into what was said in the first. In fact, okay. We keep going back into it, and I don't care.
No.
Because when she renounces her wish, that moment where because there's some back and forth, Chris Pine is like, listen, this is what you have to do. And she's like, no, this is all I've ever wanted. I don't get to ask myself for anything, which, she's essentially mirroring she's doing the Max Lord thing, of Max Lord. Yes. So that's fine. She has to resist that. We all do at some point. That's good. Like again, somebody somewhere understood.
Yeah.
It just feels covered over. But in the moment where she renounces her wish,
I actually love that scene. That was one of the scenes that I really liked.
Yeah, well, because right after that, she takes off running, and we see her running down the street, and I think it's also in the trailer.
She's tearing up and everything.
And it completely alludes back to that opening scene where that kid is like taken off like a shot. Like, it's beautiful. And they don't even go so far as to like show us an actual flashback or show us like a quick clip of her running when she was a child. They just, I don't know who, Patty Jenkins, somebody at this moment was like, the audience isn't stupid, or was like, I want to talk to the smarter members of the audience at this point.
Sure.
We don't get that. We just get her running, and it's a pure illusion, and you're like, that's wonderful. I love that moment.
Loved it.
And it does lead to her also learning how to fly, which, was another callback to the comics, but again, attached to the story in this beautiful way. Another great moment, but that's it. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe they should have gone back and had more allusions to that opening scene. I would have loved it. Maybe more allusions to the different feats she was doing. Again, maybe there are. Maybe they were so subtle I missed them. I don't know.
It's very possible. Totally.
But that is a moment that works that I wanted the whole movie to be right then. Because, when they bring up the armor, it's like something that could so obviously be tied to identity and growth and personages. They don't. It's not. It's completely tossed off. She sews up. It looks cool.
Yep.
Cool.
And it's, great. Alex Ross. Sorry you got boned on that one, buddy.
Again.
Here's my last question. My last little thing. And I love this. I actually thought it was great. So she learns to fly. She figures it out by taking what Steve said to heart, that, well, flying is easy. It's just wind and air, which are, okay. He says that. He says it's wind and air. And I was like, are those the same thing? Or have I learned? Is 1985 drastically different than what are things, is this a Doc Brown thing? Why do you keep saying heavy? Is something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull? But she does the jumping. She takes off. She learns to fly. And then while she's flying, she goes, you know what else I should do? I'm going to go ahead and lasso me some lightning bolts. Why? Why aren't you just fly? Why are you like, it's like she, like, do you need it to get going? Is it like a ripcord to get you moving? What?
No, it just looked cool. I mean, there is some tension in this movie when you talk about Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and
Dave Callahan.
Dave Callahan. There does appear to be some tension between fan service and actual movie, and if I had to cast votes, I'd say maybe Patty Jenkins wasn't like, hey, let's make her look like Cheetah from the comics for funsies. I'd have to say maybe that wasn't her. Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting question for sure.
It's fine. There's still a part of me that's like, oh, that's fun. And the Invisible Jet, we talked about liking that.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, in the end, I liked movies like Spider-Man: Homecoming better, where Michael Keaton just had on the furry jacket instead of the full-on feathers.
Well, I mean,
stuff like that.
So this is one where as a character, I'm glad that she became the cheetah. I wish they had found another way of doing it.
Exactly.
That's I think my biggest issue is that like Vulture, it makes sense. Okay. And I love that because that was a great way of keeping it in line with the MCU, even though it's not technically part of the MCU, but it is
you can't
without touching in on any of the weirdness. It's actually more than anything. It was kind of almost a throw to to Sam Raimi, right? Where he was like, okay, instead of having the Green Goblin really look like a goblin with a mask that works, let's just make him like more metal thing. It's stupid,
Right,
but
sure.
but it worked. Yeah. With this, it was again, I love the line that she gave, love the way she gave it. I just don't understand why it made her a cat.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
And I will end with this. We liked the beginning. I liked the beginning and the end. And in that beginning, there are kind of two lines that are spoken. One of them is by Diana. She says, sometimes you can't see what you're learning until you come out to the other side. And then she gets some of the counsel from her mom and not mom, where she says, you took the short path and that is the truth. And they kind of want to relate taking the short path to truth. And they don't marry those together, like I said. And by the end of the movie, I feel like the real line that embodies this movie is sometimes you can't see what you're learning until you come out the other side. Like,
it's a good line.
I think they had a good idea at the beginning of this film. I think by the end and certainly throughout the middle where they tried to put those two things together for 2.5 hours, they didn't quite take me with them again, I'll say. So in the end, still didn't mind watching it.
No,
I think I'm a little more up on it than you are.
Yes,
but
you are.
But yes, I think it, yeah. I think you've firmly at least placed it above Suicide Squad for me. Oh man,
so
that is all I ever want in life ever. So successful podcast, everybody. I don't care what you say. This here movie garners a hefty 9 stars
out of 12,
and I think that's where we'll leave it. Matt, what are we going to do next week? Are we taking time off? Are we going right to our favorite 5?
I think we're going to take a break for next week. Okay. We'll come back with our favorite 5 second week of Jan.
Okay.
Let's get ourselves a little break for New Year's. I'm actually on call too next week, so
fantastic. So come back in a couple weeks for our favorite 5. And again, the way that works is that I'll tweet this out. I'll make a list of just the movies we did main shows on.
Ghost Story.
And then we're each gonna choose. We didn't do that was last year, right?
That was last year. Yeah, it was. I think that was on both of our list. May have been.
It was already climbing my list when you said that.
You're like, okay, wait, Wonder Woman 84, Ghost Story.
Yes, and we will choose each our own favorite 5s, not together. We will do a sort of back and forth.
Nope, we're changing it up. I'm choosing yours. You're going to choose mine.
Oh boy, that would be even worse. I thought we were going to have to come up with like a combination favorite 5 between.
That might actually be a really
painful process.
Oh, right. Sorry. Shit.
It's hard. It's painful enough for just me to do my own 5. Good gosh, it's good. We're taking.
It definitely gets like at the beginning when you're first starting off with the list. It's really not that hard to start paring it down. But there is a moment. There comes a moment, maybe with about 10 to 15 left over, maybe even 20, where you go, "How did we do all these movies for one and 2?"
Yes. So yeah, I will tweet that out. You too can participate. Let us know, and we'll bring in any other top 5s into the show, our favorite 5s.
And I have always been super resistant. I know you have as well, to bringing other people onto the show. But if anybody from you two does want to be on the show, we absolutely are willing to potentially have you, as long as your name isn't Bono.
Ooh, wow, some more U2 call back to last week.
Edge or nothing.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Clayton, I'll consider it. The other guy from the band whose name I don't know.
So yeah, what was I?
In the Name of Love.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, I'm not opposed to having anybody else on the show. It's just a matter of I feel like the logistics is a rough one.
Yeah,
so.
it's
Hey, I don't care. If you want to be on the show, just send me an email. Shoot.
Yeah, we would have to do it through Discord. It's fine.
True. The audio quality might not be, or that's not true. It would be great for us, and for the third guy, it would sound middling. So, depending on his equipment.
Unless the third or her, their equipment.
I don't know why I'm so resistant to the idea of ladies liking me or us in any way.
I think, it's a really difficult thing to think of any anybody being interested, let alone a woman of any type. I mean, podcast at bookclubformovies.com. You can reach us there and tell us, hey, guess what? We don't want to be on your show either.
Yes, please write in and tell us you don't want to be on the show.
Yeah, let us know. I would really love anybody who's watched Wonder Woman 84 to tweet at us or let us know what you actually thought of it. And if you can do it in such a way where you're not just saying, that movie bad, it would be awesome.
That is maybe my favorite take of all of this is some of the blowback against people that are just like, this is an absolute trash garbage fire. That's the worst thing in the world I've ever seen. People responding to that being like, it's not everything is one or the other, man. Like there's a reason why this might be a middling movie.
Yeah.
Because it's in the middle.
Well, I mean, middle to the lower, but sure.
But, I'll take any. So bring it. With that, Matt, do you have any rest of the show for this?
I sure do.
Okay. Why not?
I got some Christmas movies.
Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas, by the way, or whatever happened.
Yeah.
Hey, happy birthday, too, also.
But thank you. Sure.
Both. Combination. I'm sure you never got that before, but
I haven't. Not for many, many years. I actually did get a combination Chinese dinner for Christmas dinner. We had Chinese food.
Like you literally went with the combo fried rice, is what you're saying?
I did. I actually went with what did I get? Let's see. For dinner for Christmas, we did. I got pork dumplings. I got steamed.
Delicious.
I got steamed. She got fried because I don't like the fried ones as much. I prefer the steamed ones, honestly.
Agree.
And
X gets the score.
Crab cheese wontons, crab rangoon, love those. And I got chicken lo mein because I love me some noodles.
Smart man.
Yeah, every time I eat them, I go, they're worms. And whenever Beth gets rice, I go, how are the maggots?
So during Wonder Woman, you were like, they're worms. Why is she a cat?
Why
do you like maggots?
Do you like? You basically hit every. That's it. Okay. So we kicked off Christmas Eve actually with a double feature that boy oh boy was not expecting this to be a great double feature in terms of like them working together so well, but holy crap, we watched Rare Exports, which was I think that's streaming on Hulu is where we found it.
We've certainly talked about this maybe 2 Christmases in a row.
It's been a staple for us for 6 years now, 5-6 years, something like that. It's been a while. We've been watching it, if not longer. I love that movie. It's the most ridiculous movie. Like conceptually, I just love the idea of Santa was frozen in a mountain. Somebody got him out. Uh-oh. Santa's not the nicest guy in the world.
That is Steve Rogers right there.
Yes, definitely. Rare Exports, just top tier stuff. Love it. The next one we watched right after it, the which I have also talked about before, Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh yeah. Did we? No, that was off mic, right? You just told me. I mean, again, yes, we've done this.
I think I talked about it on the show like a year ago.
Yes. But you've also re-mentioned it to me recently.
Yeah, right after we watched it, I think.
It got lost somewhere. I think I have it downloaded now.
It is
possibly.
It is again just so it takes place during Christmas, so it's not actually like a Christmas movie. I want to say it's Scottish in nature, but I can't remember where it was filmed. There are a couple.
If it's Irish, you're in trouble now.
Well, there are a couple different accents in there, and at least one of them's American, so go her. But the movie is it's a musical that involves zombies in a high school. You could argue that it's a high school musical. I would.
Not having seen any of the High School Musical movies, I'm guessing.
I have. Are you kidding me? Daisy was a nut bar for them. Oh, this is great. This is great. So Daisy found the movies right after they came out, right? So she was super like love them. We bought her the soundtrack on CD. She had all the movies on DVD.
I take it back.
Within a year, she went, I hate these movies. I hate them so much. I hate all High School Musical. It was totally one of those, well, that was fast.
I could chart her age now.
Yeah.
That you've given me that.
Anna and the Apocalypse, though, man, the second time watching it and the movie, the music is so good. It's so catchy. And it, like, I've been singing one of the songs since we watched it, since Christmas Eve. I've been saying like every day. I'm just humming along. Like, love it. Great flick. It has just a couple of tiny bits of gore that are like almost the goofier kind of gore, like You could tell that it's super fake, but
Love it.
but it works.
Especially my Christmas movies.
Yeah, this is one that I do totally think Evie might actually
Oh,
dig.
yeah. I did look it up when you said that, and I think it has a little too much swearing in it, but when has that ever stopped me? I just edit my own version with the swears cut out.
Yeah,
so.
I feel. I mean, you'll have to check it out. I don't remember, but they're British.
We're pretty strict on the I don't. If she wants to start swearing.
I'm gonna start
later on
sending
in
her
life.
swears.
That's fine, but I don't want her. Yeah,
she's gonna be just like mom. She watches one movie and then it's just Sailor
off to the
mouth.
races.
And then we watched just this past weekend, maybe the best movie we watched all weekend. Not necessarily a Christmas movie, but it kind of falls in like Gone in 60 Seconds. I love that movie, man.
Not necessarily.
Well, it doesn't take place during Christmas, but it's a Christmas joy because it does have Delroy Lindo in it and Timothy Olyphant. So
what about all the wasted time arguing whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie when Gone in 60 Seconds is just right there?
Yeah, that movie. What a weird movie that movie is.
I think we've watched that fairly recently too, and yeah,
I like that movie a lot. It's pointless. The end. And in the Apocalypse, though, go check that out. I think that one's also streaming on Hulu. It's totally worth it.
All right. Hey, if you want to know why maybe I was so up on Wonder Woman 1984, it might have had a minuscule, tiny reason to do with the other movie that I watched this weekend, Matt. Are you familiar with this here movie called Jiu Jitsu?
Is it JEW?
No.
Oh, I was at the National Jewish Hospital today, so that's why I've got Jews on my mind.
Jews on my mind. That's a song, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, also the fact that I just realized I probably should put the menorah away.
Oh, is it? No, hey, you don't put the menorah away around here. No, Jiu-Jitsu it's surely you've seen something. It's got Nicolas Cage in it, speaking of Gone in 60 Seconds. It's the actual story is that there's an alien that visits Earth every 6 years, I think.
What is this? I'm looking at the freaking poster.
Now you can chart my age by this movie.
Directed and co-written by Dimitri Logothetis.
Do you know who that is?
No, but this has Tony Jaa and it's got Frank Grillo in it.
Right? Look at you doing what I did when you looked up the things about this movie.
Okay, Frank Grillo. I'm not gonna lie. Frank Grillo is he's a selling point for me. I like
Fine
Frank
man.
Grillo.
Good old Crossbones. Yeah, let's do it. Frank Grillo, Tony Jaa,
love Tony Jaa.
One of the best.
Yeah.
One of the all-timers.
One of the best.
Good gosh, Nicolas Cage. He could be bad in this movie and still good.
You've got a very Scott Aukerman thing going on right now. I love it.
Oh, this movie is bad and not good bad, and it's not worth. Like we've done enough on it already. It's just it's bad in the breathtakingly, like some of the decisions they make are just like leave you breathless. Honestly, it's that bad. And this isn't like, we've recently talked about A Talking Cat, I think, or I might have mentioned it. You own it now.
Garfield.
Speaking of which,
yes.
No, and it wasn't Garfield. It was, dude, do you know who the talking cat was? I don't think I even mentioned this when we talked about A Talking Cat. Do you know who does the voice? Literally phoned in. Like, it's not a filter. If it is, doesn't make sense because the cat's talking. Why would the cat be talking through a phone filter? But it's obvious it was recorded on like a laptop microphone. Do you know who the voice of the cat is?
The cat in what?
A Talking Cat. The movie A Talking Cat.
Oh, the movie A Talking Cat. No.
Yes, there's a movie. Yes, now I see what the problem is. It's Eric Roberts. There was a lot of build up to that.
How is he still making movies?
But with movies like that, like there's actually a heart, and maybe it's because you're sure that the people making it don't not know that it's a fun, and I mean this positively, piece of garbage. Like this is Jiu Jitsu is a movie that there is none of that heart, none of that knowledge, it seems, none of that self-awareness. Like you think somebody really does think they're doing a cool camera move here and there, and you're just like,
It's painful. Like there's a bunch of oneers, I've come to call them, since I've been watching all those Scott Adkins Art of Action YouTube shows.
Sure.
In that they're one-shot action sequences where there are some just beautiful ones out there. Here it's used like, oh, let's do a oneer. It's used like, well, it's easier than editing all these together. Imagine that level of let's do a oneer. And then they still do like really ridiculous editing things that you're like, again, just breathless at some of the decisions that were made. So,
okay,
so there you go.
You can do whatever you want with this, but I had to Wikipedia this. I'm guessing whoever wrote the plot synopsis for this, like, or the actual plot, like they wrote the plot part out, is either
accurate or bad on its own.
No, it's written as if it was written by a 15-year-old. That was
the movie is made.
Listen to
as
this.
if it was made by a 15-year-old.
Listen to this. Jiu Jitsu, I can't even say it right. Jiu Jitsu begins in a jungle in a forest of Burma. The protagonist, Jake, is running away from flying stars. He ends up on an oceanside cliff where he is hit by the stars and falls into the ocean, hitting his head and blacking out.
Yeah, he has a double amnesia, I think, basically.
In the following scene, Wiley sees Jake in the water, and he is left in the care of two Burmese fishers. They stitch up the cuts Jake sustained from shurikens and bring him to a nearby military outpost, assuming that's where he came from originally.
Okay, that's enough of that.
A talented intelligence officer, Myra, tries to interrogate Jake, but it appears he has no recollection of the events, which led to him ending in the water where he was found.
This is like IMDb bad trivia, the movie.
It is. And this is a little bit further down. As man after man in balaclava plus fatigues uniform is laid flat by an unfazed Kong, the noises of gunfire and feet making contact with chests, heads, and the like alert Myra and the others that something is indeed up.
Okay. What that actually sounds like is somebody hate making a Wikipedia article. Like, do I have to, like, this is just put the bare minimum. Like, somebody's like, who had the gun to this guy's head that if he didn't do this Wikipedia entry, he was, I would have chosen to get shot. I would have chosen suicide.
Does Nick Cage only show up at the beginning?
He shows up to be like, to do like crazy Nick Cage. He's in some bad action sequences that obviously he's doubled for. It's not even worth a Nick Cage. That's how bad a movie can be, that it's not worth a Nick Cage.
Is it like when he's being doubled, is it one of those doubles where you're like, they show him from the front and then you see it from the back and the guy is like 6 inches taller and weighs at least 200 more pounds?
Would you be surprised to hear that it's bad?
No, I would.
The doubling, yes, no. And
these are not them. Like, these are their stunt doubles.
It's not. It's unfortunate.
Christy Puchko of IGN gave the film a negative review and wrote, "Jiu Jitsu feels like a deeply 2020 movie in that it is a barrage of WTF choices that hit without mercy until you either give in and go with the flow or just go mad. Or hey, maybe both."
Sure, yeah. It's. I'm sad that we did all that time on that, because there's one movie that I've been sitting on that I won't say more than 2 words about. Actually, I think I mentioned that I was halfway through it, but now that I finished the other half, it was one of the must watches. Like I did the thing I don't think I've ever done before, and when anybody else does it, I'm like, okay, I did a social media post and an Instagram post at that, where it was a picture with words on it. Never done one of those, but I thought it was this important to watch The Social Dilemma. Have you heard about this thing?
Yes.
Like old news, I'm sure, especially you who have left Facebook and Twitter at this point. But wow, man, that movie is a must see for all the Trump voters we just talked about, and all the other voters, everybody, period, in the whole world ever needs to watch that movie. That I'm sad I'm going to do it so much injustice and less time than Jiu Jitsu, but good gosh, go watch The Social Dilemma, please, if you've ever done anything for me ever.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's on the Flicks, right? Netflix?
Yes, it's a Netflixer, which I think that thing should just be free. Like it's strange to me that you need to pay money in any respect to see that movie in some degree.
Well, I mean, the guy who made it probably wants to get some money out of it.
I guess it's actually, I don't know who made it. I know the guy who figures in it most prominently, Tristan.
The guy who made its name is Jeff Orlowski.
Sure, okay.
He's an Emmy award-winning documentarian who made the films Chasing Ice in 2012 and Chasing Coral in 2017.
It's a very well made film too. Like so far everything I've said is just in respect to the subject matter. Like it's worth every ounce and second of your time. But it's also a very smartly made documentary. There's a little bit of green screening that I'm probably the only person, not the only person that would notice, but a little bit more sensitive to that. But other than that, it's a documentary that's combined with dramatization in some really smart ways that I think talk to children, so that my daughter, we watched this together, understood, because a lot of it is also taken up with, algorithms and just all this
Your
inside
kid doesn't
baseball.
understand algorithms?
She
Boy.
does. It's a kid she goes to school with.
Go Rhythm?
No? Okay. It's a very smartly and well-made documentary as well. So all credit to Mr. Forgot his name already.
Yeah, you did. His name is Jeff Orlowski.
Jeff Orlowski, the good old Jeff Orlowski.
He kind of looks like the guy. He kind of looks like the dude who's the main driving force behind American Movie.
Okay, sure.
That's
not a bad thing.
No, that's a great movie.
We could talk about that. I haven't finished it yet, but you said Beth has always loved it and now has it. And did she enjoy it? Watch it again?
Oh yeah. She
right.
She loves it. It's a great movie.
We'll get back to that. I think probably will.
Yeah. I do have an idea for the first movie I want to do when we come back, though.
Oh.
I admit. Yeah.
Okay. Throw it down. A little teaser. Favorite fives is what we're doing when we come back first.
Yeah. The first movie when we come back.
Gotcha.
I kind of have been hearing lots of really good stuff about Soul. And I do want to watch it.
We've never done a Pixar, I don't think.
I don't think we've ever done a Pixar.
That could be a fun...
Have you watched it yet?
No, haven't.
Yeah.
But 2-3 people, yes, have told me.
Yeah, we had
do that.
A number of people, a couple. Yeah, I don't know what that number was. More than one, less than 6. Have
interesting.
Said, so anywhere between 2 and 4 or 5 even. But I've heard really good things about it. It's on Disney Plus, so watch that before we come back in a couple weeks. Okay.
So favorite fives in 2 weeks minimum. Soul after that. So you got a good head start, everybody. And you can find us, as always, at podcast@bookclubformovies.com or on Facebook and Twitter. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of those things that we forget to say in the heat of the moment while recording such shows as this for over an hour. Let's just say
Wonder Woman.
Oh, we never even, I guess we did mention the Linda Carter bumper, but
we did.
Hey, Linda Carter bumper, just
at the end of this show.
Putting it on the end of this show as well. So there you go.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.